What is going on, guys? Dublar back here with another build guide for Diablo 3's Season 10 patch 2.5.0. This time, I'm going to be covering the CoE Archon Wizard. This is probably the strongest build we have seen in this game, period. This build was used to clear a GR112 last season and should definitely be in the contention for the top spot this season. The only build I potentially see passing this is a CoE variant of the Hydra build, but that's yet to show its true power. I'll be covering that build once we get a solid set of skills so I can bring you the best build guide possible. So back to the CoE Archon build. A bit of a note, it is a high skill cap build and it's very tough to play. It requires a well-rolled rift and a lot of skill to master, but when it's done right, it absolutely destroys GRs. I highly recommend familiarizing yourself with the mechanics of this build if you intend on pushing the leaderboards this season. So this build uses the same basic philosophy and most of the same gear as the Speed Archon build, which you can check out here. It'll give you a good idea of how Tal's and Veer sets sync with Archon. So because of this, I'm just going to cover the pieces that are specific to this build. I'll also include a link in the details of this video to the build guide that breaks down all the specific gear and optimum stat rolls. So with that said, let's get into the gear. These are the few pieces that make the build different than previous build guides. Number one, and most importantly, Convention of Elements, or CoE. This takes our damage to the next level. This adds the possibility for an additional 200% damage. This bonus rotates on a set 4-second timer through all the elemental skills available to our build. Number two, the Ancient Parthan Defenders, or APDs. These give us a damage reduction for every enemy that is stunned within 25 yards. These are very important because they are what keep us alive. This is much more important in this build because we are out of Archon for so much longer. Number 3, the Aether Walker. This turns Teleport into a spender skill and allows us to spam it. We couple this with the Calamity Rune on our Teleport skill to stun enemies near us and proc our APDs. This will reduce the damage we take and adds a great deal of mobility to the build. So quick note on some specific stats on our gear. Life per hit. We ideally want to roll this on as many pieces as possible, but at a minimum, I recommend the weapon and bracers. Cooldown reduction. This build relies on CDR, and you have to roll this as a max stat on most pieces. At a minimum, it should be on your shoulders, both rings, weapon, and offhand. This should put you at right below 64% CDR on your sheet. You can also choose to roll CDR on your amulet, which will give you a bit more leeway on when you can pop Archon. Lastly, we want to make sure we have Arcane Power on crit, and the additional Arcane Power secondary on our offhand. Ideally, you should already have this rolled on your offhand because it's the optimum roll for all builds this season. Alright, moving into skills. Magic Missile with the Glacial Spike rune. This is going to be our main skill outside of Archon. This skill is fast, it does not cost much, and it gives us the life on hit that we need. This will also give us Arcane Power on crit from our offhand, which keeps our Arcane Power high and allows us to teleport more. You can replace this with Shock Pulse with the Explosive Bolts rune if you prefer. Black Hole Spellsteal. This is a damage increase and has pretty much become a staple in most Wizard GR push builds. Archon Combustion. This is pretty self-explanatory. Teleport Calamity. This is going to give us mobility and also procs our APDs. And finally, Energy Armor, Force Armor, and Magic Weapon Deflection are going to round out our skills and give us a bit more survivability. So moving on to passives. This is pretty standard for most Wizard builds. Evocation for the cooldown, Paralysis for the Manald procs, Unstable Anomaly for the extra life, and Power Hungry for the damage increase. So moving into a bit of a gameplay explanation. To play this build, we need to search for large groups of enemies and stun them with teleport to give us survivability. This is easier said than done and requires fishing for good open maps. With the semi-recent crowd control nerf, we cannot stun enemies endlessly. This nerf basically reduced the effectiveness of crowd control skills every time they are used, so the more we stun an enemy, the more immune they become to stun. This will affect how much damage reduction we receive in return. So as I mentioned, this build is heavily reliant on CDR. Because of this, we run Gogok of Swiftness, and we need to maintain the max of 15 stacks to reduce our cooldown. This reduction is important because it allows us to maintain a set cycle for Archon. If we get off this cycle, we'll no longer be able to combine our CoE rotation with our Archon stacks from the previous cycle and our Tal stacks from the new cycle. In order to maintain this timing, we should aim to pop Archon right at the end of the cold rotation and during the first second of the fire rotation. This is because Tal stacks last for 8 seconds and CoE rotations last for 4. This will allow our Tals and Lightning rotation to end roughly at the same time and allow for Archon to have as much time to cooldown as possible. If we get off our rotation, it'll cause a huge decrease in damage. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay and break it down to give you guys an idea of how to play this build. So we'll jump into this GR90 I cleared on non-season. A little bit of context about this clip. I had just been killed by this group of 3 elite packs. Once I spawn, I continue to teleport for my APD procs and wait for my co-rotation. When it comes up, I pop into Archon and try to kill the trash. I ended up gathering about 25 stacks, but I'd cleared pretty much everything besides the elites. This would make it hard to stay alive and put me in a bad spot on my next rotation, so I decided to move. Now notice how when I'm moving through the rift, I'm constantly teleporting and using my beam when in Archon and casting magic missile when outside. This helps me maintain the 15 Gogok stacks for maximum cooldown. Now you'll also notice that teleport refreshes my Gogok stacks if I hit something with Calamity. Although teleport does refresh these stacks, we want to make sure that we're casting magic missile along with it to ensure that our arcane power stays high. After moving, I ended up gathering about 40 stacks, which made me feel comfortable, so I headed back to the elite pack and waited out my co-cycle. When it came up, I hit it and burst through all 3 elite packs. This just really goes to show exactly how strong this build is. This is pretty much all we want to maintain while we're playing this build. It's a little tough at first, but you guys will get it with practice. So anyways guys, thanks for watching this video. I really hope this build guide helped you out, and I hope you're able to push this build far on the leaderboards this season. So if this video helped you, please don't hesitate to hit that like button, or hit the dislike button if you hated everything about it. Also drop by and leave me a comment. I'm happy to help out with any questions you have about the build, and I appreciate all the feedback you guys have given me so far. I'll see you guys in the next video.